Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Azekahh, and today we're going to be reading Sunset's Haunted House. And Wayward Pony sent me a list of a bunch of different short stories for me to read, and this one seemed the most interesting to me because it involves ghosts and sex. So, that's those are two things that I like, and the problem with this one, though, is that it's about Sunset Shimmer, and I've never watched Equestria Girls. I've never even looked at it. So, I did watch a few clips to try and get a gist of what Sunset Shimmer sounds like, but if I don't do a good impression of her, I'm very sorry. So, I guess this story's in like a diary format. So here we go. Day 1. Well, I guess then I would have to read this whole thing in Sunset Shimmer's voice, wouldn't I? But oh well. Dear Diary, I finally found it. A home. Somewhere that I can be that's safe and sound from the elements. It's about damn time, too, as after a damned year I was beginning to become afraid of being stuck inside the winter winds again. But now, so long as I pick the right rooms, I'll be fine. And yeah, that's me admitting that this place is not great. Bad? I wouldn't say that. It's just an old, dilapidated house with a couple good bits of furniture. And I was even able to find a bed, so it could definitely be worse, just a bit drafty. Better than nothing, at least. Night 1. Tonight, man, this is going to be really... It'd be best if you guys followed along, because, I don't know, just the way that the story is formatted, it might be hard to follow along if you're just listening. Tonight was the start of something wonderful. After so long of having nothing here to play with, here comes this hot little piece of meat. A nice, tight ass, big, perky tits, and best of all, a wariness that wafts off after her like fresh bread. I don't know her name, but I bet I'll be able to figure it out soon enough. Tonight, though, there were more important things for me to worry about, such as how valuable her assets are, and I was quite pleased with the results. Her breasts are like that of any woman's, soft, malleable, but still firm enough to put any middle-aged bitch to shame. Yes, under my claws, they were a true treasure. And better yet, they're sensitive. Just a little bit of play, and she began to moan and groan. When I got a bit firmer with my squeezes, though, she let them out like a sultry whore. Overall, while I must figure out how deeply she sleeps, I must commend the girl on being such a delicious piece of meat for me, and I hope she stays for a while. This is kind of weird, reading about sex in the past tense. Because, normally when you read these kinds of stories, it's everything's happening as you're reading it. But this is like a diary, so it's a bit odd. Day 4. Dear Diary, so far the house is working out all right, I think. Whenever I'm walking around at home now, I can feel eyes on me, like I'm being watched at all times. I know it sounds silly, but even as I write this, I can't shake the feeling. I know I admitted to it being drafty in here, but this isn't like a normal breeze. Instead, it feels like something's actually touching me. Of course, I may still just be overthinking it, but when it feels like a hand grips my breast or my ass feels like it's being fondled, it's hard to think that it's a natural occurrence. On the plus side, I found out that the water works today, and I was able to take a nice long shower. It wasn't warm, which blows, but it's better than being caked in dirt or having to wash up at a public bath or something. Now, if only I could shake those eyes. Night 4. I simply love this fair maiden. After a few nights of research, I must say that she is indeed a deep sleeper, and just to put my reasoning down, along with my own enjoyment. First test was with her bare chest. I lifted up her cute little night shirt and let those massive mammaries out into the chilly night air. I didn't leave them like that, though. Soon, grabbing them with both hands, oh, how they felt as my fingers sunk into her tender flesh. It felt better, though, as I began to lick her perky nipples, and she really began to moan. You'd think the girl never touched herself if I hadn't seen her do it the first night she was here. Second came her ass. Now, she was completely undressed, and her ass gave way to my fingers just like her bosom. It was firmer and probably tighter than her breasts, but I don't mind. In fact, the next day I had used it for my own amusement and smacked it hard. It was pretty funny, actually, to watch her yelp from the touch while she was awake, but only became wetter when she got spanked at night. And yes, my final test. I wasn't willing to fuck her, not yet at least, but I had to see those cute, lower pink lips. They were just as beautiful as any other part of her body, and just as eager for my touch. A few licks, and I got her nectar to flow freely, and the taste. Oh, the taste. She's definitely something special. And I intend entirely to fuck her like the good girl she deserves to be. I just need to time it right. I do think I have just the moment. Day 7. Sunset walked in... Okay, what? So it's not a diary then. Okay. Sunset walked into the bathroom and let out a deep sigh. She was stressed. That was without a doubt at this point. This is really weird. It just went from a diary to not being a diary, so... Yeah. She was stressed. That was without a doubt at this point. Of course, that happened any time her logical and emotional sides got into conflict. And ever since she had moved into this place, they had always been at odds. Of course, that sort of thing happens when there is almost no other explanation than that of a spirit. Of some invisible being that would smack her ass, grab her tits, and a bright blush came to her face as one of her fingers ran over the crotch of her sleep pants. A small tremor of heat ran up her body, remembering how it felt when the wind seemed to lick her pussy, with the cloth of her panties being all that stopped it from going right in. She gasped as she felt her finger push down harder, before shaking her head and forcing the hand away from herself. Sunset knew that she was being a moron at this point. The thing in her house, even if it was real, was molesting her. She couldn't take some sort of sick pleasure in that. Could she? She shook her head again with a scowl. Sunset was here for a shower, not to think weird thoughts like how a ghost could be here and fucking her right now. That's just preposterous. The thought also helped her chuckle, though, as she let her breasts out of the bra that she wore, which, while being the biggest size the store she stole it from had, it was still too small for hers. Preposterous to most would be something like a horse coming through a magical portal to become human, not whether or not ghosts existed. Then she slid her underwear down, bending over as she paid extra care to the lacy black thong. Sunset wasn't a big fan of it, having been through 3 pairs at this point. But one had to wear 2 pairs of underwear to get a new pair. You started realizing that something so small and unnoticeable was useful. This was a thought the spirit of the house had known for quite a while, and while not enough to panic Sunset, while she was presenting him with that spectacular rump, he couldn't help but slide a claw along the one side of those velvet lips and send the young woman a shiver up her spine. Sunset blushed at the shiver, but her own thoughts had stopped her from noticing the light touch, but only the pleasure it brought. It muddled her thoughts more about all this, especially while she was bare naked. On the other hand, she was naked. Sunset slowly stepped into the shower hall, and while she let the water, which felt oddly warm today, fall upon her bare skin, she let her hands slide down her body. First, they caressed her smooth stomach, their soft touch, making her let out a small mewl of pleasure. She was never someone to let another touch her, despite how much she wanted to be at times, and the feeling of her hands over her body always brought an immediate response. This was, of course, something the spirit had noticed as well, and he smiled to himself as he watched her not even question the warm water. As master of the house, he could control almost everything here, even that which should no longer work. There had been times when he had thought this ability to control, and then finding these beauties that he could not, was a large part of why he found himself needing them. Then he saw their giant tits, heard their delightful moans, and found himself forgetting the thought while he clutched at their chests. And at that moment, Sunset couldn't properly register what was going on. All she knew was that one moment her fingers had been sliding over her thin folds, sending quivers along her body, while she wished she could grab her chest, and then her chest was grabbed. And she didn't even just mean grab. She meant that it felt like some powerful demon or dragon whose claws added a bit of joyous pleasure to her breasts, especially as its thumbs dug into her bosom, was trying to get ready to throw her rack like a fastball. It didn't stop there, though, much to Sunset's joy. Next came what felt like a large, throbbing cock that rubbed against her thighs, and didn't enter her only because her fingers were still there. For a moment, she considered saying no, especially since she had no idea what this thing even was. And then it twisted her nipples, and her mind went blank again. a state it would be staying in while the spirit lifted her up. For the next half an hour, if one were to walk into the bathroom, they would be greeted by quite a sight. Sunset, her mind just about stopped from the confusion and pleasure, looked to be levitating in the air. 10 indents on her legs to show where the spirit's claws were. Her pussy was opened wide and gleefully spewing its juices as the monstrous cock pounded itself deep within her. The spirit, for this part, loved every minute, watching as those giant tits bounced in time with his thrusts. She was definitely the best to have entered the house so far, with her pussy being so tight that he had to really work to make her slide along it. Even better was how eagerly she moaned. Then again, when his power overcame them, they always did. He smiled as his cock trembled for the first time during the half hour, and he bent over. Sunset shivered as his ectoplasm slid along the side of her neck from where his tongue had touched her. That wasn't all she would receive then, as she was slammed down to his hilt one more time, causing her eyes to almost pop out of her skull before his cock trembled one more time. And, just like every other time during that shower, she felt it grow within her. In another moment, her body shuddered as his ectoplasm's heat invaded her. Then it would come out, filling her to the absolute brim. Unlike normal cum, though, it moved like molasses and left her lips wanting more and more, something the spirit gleefully gave, and Sunset would almost pass out when she began to move again. However, once the spirit was done, and Sunset had her wits about her again, Day 8. And this is another diary entry, it looks like. Dear Diary, after some negotiations, and there's italicized text here, I think it's supposed to be, like, the ghost. You punched me in the dick. After you tried to fucklock me again, so shut it. Anyways, as I was saying before, after some negotiations with my friendly perverted ghost, I have learned a few things. First is the fact that, despite this place's age, it's still technically hooked up to the city systems. I, of course, can't do anything about that. A certain spirit can, though. Yep, and I'd be happy to, so long as you agree to keep your side of this deal. Yes, I know, and I wanted to write this all as a form of contract, in exchange for the electricity, heat, and water. Don't forget about Wi-Fi and cable. You can do that? It's a bit harder, but I've been lonely. And if it means having a friend as pretty as you, I don't mind the extra effort. Well, in exchange for all that, I don't leave this place. And while he is allowed to tease me while I sleep and walk around, Bartholomew is only allowed to actually disrupt me and or fuck me when I go to take a shower. Deal? Deal. Sunset smirked as she slammed her diary shut, and then glanced at the air over her. All right, now shoo! This is my diary, after all! As per their agreement, since Bartholomew for the most part did not talk, thus leading to a scribbled-covered bathroom wall for their initial dealings, he showed his compliance and agreement by closing the door on his way out. Once he was gone, though, Sunset blinked, and a single tear fell down her cheek. It didn't make her smile go away, though, not when this meant that she had a friend, and one that could make her feel warmer and closer than she had been to almost anyone else. Still, she hoped he would make a good replacement for her, since there was no way she was going back, not after what she'd done. So this would simply have to do, and hey, there were worse options than a spectral fuck buddy, so who was she to complain? I gotta say, that's the end of the story. I gotta say, that was a lot less good than I thought it was gonna be. But, I guess I can't expect much out of fanfiction these days. No offense to Jumbled Thought, who wrote this story. It's a creative idea, that's for sure. And since I never watched Equestria Girls, I have no idea what the hell she's talking about there at the end. But, if you do, then that's good. That's good to reference the source material, I suppose. But it was just not very exciting, and yeah, that's today's reading. I've got a Discord channel. If you guys want to come and hear me do live readings, every time I do a reading, I put it up on Discord. And if you want to come listen to me while I'm reading, you can do that. If you'd like to support me, help me make more videos like this, you should go to my Patreon, consider donating, and if you do, you can send me suggestions on what to read, and I'll take a look, I'll put them on a list, and almost guarantee anyone's story will be read. Like, if I look it over and it looks like it's not very good, well, I might read it anyways, because, it's, like, bad. But, send me your suggestions, and I'll read what you suggest. Smaller stories are preferred, but larger stories are not out of the question. It's just that when I read a larger story, it's more like it takes multiple episodes to read, like with university days. So that's like a big overarching project. Then I can read these smaller things in between each episode of the larger thing. So if you want to send me big stories, go for it, but there's no promises on when those will be read. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.